At 5:30, reaction to this scene last night. JCPS school board literally shaking a jar and drawing names out of that jar to see which of 7 board members will now represent just 5 JCPS districts. Take a look at your screen. There they are.
The board was whittled down by a new law passed by Kentucky lawmakers. The lawmakers also drew the new 5-district map of Jefferson County there. It's a shakeup set to have major implications, of course, on the district going forward. Joining us is WHAS 11's longtime education expert Sam Corbett here in Louisville to talk about what this is going to mean. And Sam, I noticed that 2 board members, some prominent ones, are now at-large members. What does that mean? Are those worthless positions now?
No, really, they're just placeholders. So they're still an active board member. They specifically don't represent a part of the community or individual schools, but they have the same duties and responsibilities through the end of this year as they've had all along.
So do they have power when it comes to votes or anything like that? They do?
They still are a voting member. It was just a way to reduce the board from 7 to 5 based upon the legislation that was passed in Frankfurt, and do it before the elections and swearing in of new board members in January.
I think a lot of people, I'm sorry, Doug, I think a lot of people were surprised when they saw them drawing it out of a jar.
Right. I believe they had 2 at-large members, and then the other 5 members are serving a district that's based upon their residency, because that's how it works with school boards. You run based upon where you live. And
so these people are going to run for re-election, but what's going to be their motivation to finish this out with all this tumultuous change?
Well, I had that conversation the other day with several people. Why would somebody want to run for this office? Oh, by the way, the filing deadline is early June to run for the board races in November. You're in a position that I said for years, it's a full-time position. It's very difficult. You're always subject to criticism. It's not a paid position. And so you do question, why do people want to run potentially for this position?
All right, let's talk about the line of credit, because they are now trying to get that line of credit to pay teachers and staff members. All your years with JCPS, have you ever heard of anything like that happening?
Well, I don't recall where they actually set up a line of credit with a local bank. And what that is for is that they basically run out of cash in September, October, November before we all pay our property taxes, which typically, if you take the discount, are due December 1. So that's just really a short-term cash position that they're trying to fund. They did pass a budget that's going to show $115 million in cuts. They had talked about as much as 132 or maybe even up to 182 million. So 115 million in cuts, but that's still going to result in a $40 million deficit for their budget starting July 1.
And how do they make up that money, Sam?
Well, they're going to pull out of their savings, and they're hoping that over time that they'll be, based upon increased property values, increased property taxes, that they'll slowly be able to make that up. They said they would not show an actual balanced budget until 2031.
Sam, in your contacts and many sources at JCPS that you stay in contact with, have layoffs begun? What have you learned about the trimming and how deeply it's going that maybe we haven't heard about publicly?
These cuts will take effect typically at the end of their fiscal year, which is the end of June. Their new year starts July 1. So people basically aren't being renewed, and so they will work in most cases until June 30th, unless they choose to leave earlier because they find something else. And that all kicks in at the end of their fiscal year.
All right. We thank you, Sam Corbett, for coming in, your perspective. Excellent analysis and new information tonight.